In this episode, we dive into an Accurail Autorack that definitely needs a lot of TLC, as well as show you a good way to display a number board. It's a little custom project, but it's worth doing. Speaking of custom projects, we got the SDL39 to review. And also check out what the curmudgeon's gripe of the week is this week. Only in this episode of SOO The Milwaukee Road. All right, we're taking a look at a Great Northern Autorack here, and this car had some issues. I purchased it online. There was some of the support stanchions that were glued on crooked. Some of the glue is slopped. When you're building models, obviously, you got to start somewhere. So if you're able to prevent that slopping and spilling, you do all you can to do so. Sometimes you want to use a glue that is more of a gel. But in this case, we've disassembled the car almost completely. I ended up bending the weight because it was a little bit bent. And then we also referenced the prototype. So how close to the prototype am I going to take this? Drawbar. I'm not going to go to drawbar standards because I think the drawbar standards on this are going to be far more work than one is going to want to dive into. And that actually is noting the flat car itself. If you notice these, they have the placards that Trailer Train and so forth are on. These don't have that. The flat car itself, the very bottom portion, is not accurate to the prototype of the number series that we're shooting for, but this is a fairly close representation. You notice the smooth deck underneath, the rib deck on top. Accurail did that. They've got the smooth deck on the bottom, the rib deck on top. So you're not too far off when it comes to developing the accuracy of the prototype. In fact, this car here, the number is 907596. And they are at 907624. So you're not that far off in regards to the number series. So that's what we're going to be shooting for. Scott Thompson did develop a great series of books. I've mentioned it many times. I'll mention it again. Great Northern Equipment Color Pictorial Book 2 by Scott Thompson. The trade name Conrail is a portmanteau based on the company's legal name and continues to do business with an asset management and network services provider in the three shared asset areas that excluded from the division and its operations during its acquisitions by CSX and Norfolk Southern. What does that all mean?
Conrail's just a bunch of cobbled together railroads.
Conrail 2015 is a GE B23-7. Do you know what year it was built? Was it A, 1976, B, 1979, C, 1981, or D, 1985? We'll find out later in this episode. All right, the question is
how do you display a number board?
In this particular application, we're looking at a Conrail U-boat number board, and it's been put together to be able to hang above my son's bed. So it had the brackets that are on the back. I tried to give it the look by putting these wing nuts on the corners of what it would look like, as well as one of the grab irons that would have been underneath the number board. This is the general construction. I'm going to open this up here for you.
We'll widen the camera so you can see it a little bit better.
In the background, you can see this is actually a number board for a pair of SD10 Milwaukee Road 532 with a headlight in the center. It's in the process. Once I did this one, I decided to tackle something bigger, and then, like anything Tangent City,
I run into so many different tangents that I don't get them all done. But I'm going to take a look at the inside of this particular number board.
Okay, but I do have it on a hinge, and then these are the LEDs within. So the hinge in the corner is just a pair of small little cheap hinges. Collectively, you probably put something together like this for not a whole lot of money. I can see the clips in here have broken. They just get brittle over time. I'm going to actually replace those now since I'm in here with some better fastening devices. I've done this in the past with the cross bucks that I've got. I can just see every single one of these has gotten brittle and they've cracked. So I'm going to replace that, but the gist of it, if we come to the other side for the number board, I built a box. You do the hinges. I routed out this opening, and then I end up putting these are just framing holders, and I see another one of these is broke. Just over time, this plastic is cheap.
Clearly it breaks.
So I'm going to replace that as well. What we've got here is the number board obviously in place. I just used some basic pipe for the grab iron, and inside here I painted it white just to help illuminate a little bit better. But this is just basic rope light that you can get at your local big box store.
So that's kind of the gist of it.
And hopefully that helps anybody that wants to try to light up a number board. All right, I'm just going to take these basic wire loops and help fasten this thing down a little bit better. Should have done this in the first place, but they came with all the clips, so I used the clips and...
Well, lesson learned.
here we have it, the final product. Nothing like 2015 relit up again. It's kind of cool when you can take railroad artifacts and repurpose them. One of my favorite things is being inspired by fellow modelers that push the envelope. And yes, it's Steam, and I'm not a huge Steam fan, but Jeremiah Rindall, he's taken it to another level. He uses a Tam Valley decoder and makes this magic happen. Now, how cool is that?
Pretty cool.
For the essence of time, we've sped this up just a little bit because the turntables, well, they don't turn too fast. Still pretty impressive nonetheless. We're going to take a look at a little bit more of Jeremiah's roundhouse here. How many doors did he end up powering up? I believe he's obviously going to try to attempt to do all of them, but what nice actuation. This video's been sped up slightly just to be able to speed up the process.
Abracadabra. But that's magic.
Well done, Jeremiah. Keep up the good work. All right, that sound you hear is the start of an SDL39, but let's let Tom Petty bring it in.
Oh, brother, look what we've become.
A great band.
Oh, brother, could we be so dumb?
No, not necessarily.
You set us up like dominoes.
The manufacturers set us up like dominoes, that's for sure.
I didn't do it for no magazine.
Nah, just doing it for myself.
Didn't do it for no video.
Well, I did do it for this video.
And speaking of this video, we're going to take a look at this SDL39 in a little bit more detail. We're going to look at what Scale Trains has coming out, as well as what all went into this particular unit.
Haha, he said unit.
All right, there we have it. This is the nicest SDL39 that is currently out there today. You say,
Well, geez, that's a serious proclamation to call this the nicest SDL39 that is out there today.
well, it is. And the reason why is because of the amount of detail and effort that has gone into this locomotive. I have not personally seen one. If there's one out there, please share it with me.
And don't share the Scale Trains link with me because we're already aware that Scale Trains is making these.
And to everybody that is excited about that announcement,
You're welcome.
if I hadn't created number 589, that would never have been produced. And you say,
Well, that's not possible.
well, anything I produce.
Manufacturers will create.
So I went to extreme measures to make sure that I had the nicest one that was possibly out there. I'm going to dive into what exactly is in this locomotive and a few things that I hope that are in the Scale Trains locomotive.
It's time to answer that quiz question. Do you know what year 2015 was built? Did you guess B, 1979? If you did, you'd be correct. Sister unit 1998 actually had a brief stint with the Minnesota's MN&R.
Kind of a fun fact.
Now what we're looking at here is the quintessential SDL39, the LEDs that you can see that are involved. But first things we're going to start with is the sound. The sound that's in here is actually a Loc-Sound ESU. This is a version 5 21-pin decoder. They work out really nice. I've been very pleased with them. The sound file itself is an actual SDL39.
And by actual, we mean it's a 645E3 prime mover. Let's give it a listen.
But I also then tethered that 21-pin decoder to a decoder buddy. And this is a Nix Trains decoder buddy. This is the version 5. And the version 5 actually has this little board on there that all your LEDs can get soldered to, but you can pull it off, which is kind of nice if you're ever removing the shell and it's attached to the chassis. You've got all the wires that go up to the headlight. This allows you to disconnect it, weather your shell, or do any of the work on the chassis, and you're going to have yourself an easier working experience. So that's the motherboard that's on there. The sound that you heard was coming out of a Scale sound system speaker. This is a nice enclosure. They've got great sound. I've been very impressed with it. I've put a few of these into MP15s that I have.
Oh, stock alert! If you do run over to their website, you're going to find out they are out of stock. They temporarily do have suspensions where they're not able to get all the parts. And sometimes he does go on vacation because he does have a life and he is an independent business owner. So
Give him a break.
The thing I like about them is that they have a nice throaty bass sound to them, opposed to the
Tinny sound that you might be getting out of some of your other decoders that are out there.
Or speakers, rather.
I'm going to turn the lights on here and give you a look at some of these light features. The one that I noted before was the number board. The number board itself is an enclosure that I built a little piece that slid into the housing, and I was able to light it with a Pico LED. And I say Pico because this Evan Designs, that's how they name the size of their LEDs. Pico Nano Chip, they've got a lot of different sizes, but this is what's in there, these little tiny ones. Now, 1.8 millimeter, it's got this little bit of a circuit board. You don't have to have the circuit board. This is set up for a 7 to 19 volt, but they do offer ones that don't have it. You just order the ones that have the lesser voltage value, because there's a bridge rectifier and a resistor inside here, I believe. I've never cut one open, but I'm assuming that's what's in there. I end up putting just the class lights and step lights on the same function together. As you see here, if I turn them on and off, I'm going to shade the light just a little bit so you can see those. I end up just putting up against a fiber optic filament that creates the lens of the class light, and this is the actual material. This is the fiber optic material that you can sand the end in more of a dome shape, and then I end up just sliding it into the opening. This is 1 millimeter in diameter, but I ordered this stuff through this Trainiacs.net, or John. He's got a link on eBay as well. You can purchase this stuff through. I recently just gotten some more of it. I think there's like 3 or 4 feet of this stuff in here. It's more than enough. It's about $750 or something, shipped to your door with the heat shrink. And you say, well, that's not a lot for, you know, the materials. It seems kind of expensive for what you're getting. And yeah, you might find it elsewhere, so go ahead and find it. But that's what I'm using. This same vendor, John, provides 25 LEDs around for the same cost. And I'm able to create the headlight function. So the headlights, I'll turn them on here. Those headlights are created by just melting down this filament. I end up taking a soldering iron or a lighter, and I can heat it up, and this thing will become a bulbous shape. And as it flares out, it creates the lens that then gets slid into the openings of the headlights, and you get yourself a nice headlight effect. So it's kind of nice in that regard. He gives you kind of a little instructional on how that can take place. He mentions it here. But you got yourself a nice headlight. I've been very pleased with it. I've used this application on a lot of locomotives. And then the last thing from the lighting side of things is that beacon. You look at it and say,
Ooh, that's a beautiful beacon.
well, it is.
It's a drool-worthy beacon. I mean, you don't see beacons that are this beautiful.
As you can see here in this John Hill photo.
Got a nice-looking beacon. Here's one little detail we're hoping Scale Trains dials in on. Because it's not the Milwaukee Road without a beacon like that.
That's a nice beacon.
Aaron Hine was selling these on Facebook. They're referred to the RB1 beacon. There's a little circuit board, and this circuit board actually fit just inside the battery box. But if you look at the LED, how tiny this is, it's a small little LED. There's 4 of them, back to back to back to back. And it's actually wired up in such a way that it doesn't matter which lead you solder where, it's going to illuminate. Because he's got it set up in such a way that you don't have to worry about a positive and negative.
Well, enough talking about this. Let's take a look at this thing in action. We brought it out to the GN in 1970 to do a little test run. What we're hearing here is the actual audio from the locomotives. Scale sound speaker, ESU decoder, and I am using a shotgun mic to be able to get a direct sound recording from the locomotives themselves. So we'll just kick back and enjoy. Well, there you have it. That's an overview of the lighting and sound on number 589. We're going to take a look at a little bit more of the detail on the paint as well as decals of 589 in the future episode, as well as take a look at how 583 became 586. That was the trailing unit of this consist. Thanks for watching this episode of SOO The Milwaukee Road.
Ha!
Alright, here's the curmudgeon coming at you for the gripe of the week. The gripe of the week this week is how this hobby is dying, I'm telling you right now. It's dying like your wife's flowers in the fall, or when you accidentally water them with acid. You see, I tell you right now, there's no hope, no life. We need more F units, and we need more transition era stuff. We need more steam engines. That's what we need. That's what will keep this hobby alive. I mean, they can make all this SD70, ABC, Elemental P, Max, and I tell you, who's buying all that stuff? Well, maybe it's those young kids out there on the interweb. So this hobby might have some hope. I tell you right now, I only pray that there's going to be a chance that these kids in this future generation aren't going to be all stuck on those old digital boxes and entertainment and wearing googly goggles that are just all fantasy. Let's get into reality and run some trains, and that's the curmudgeon's gripe of the week. It's dying like your wife's flowers in the fall, or when you accidentally water them with acid.
A big thanks to everybody that watches to the end, that has hit like, hit subscribe, as well as made comments in the past. It's those actions that help share this content, so if you haven't checked out other episodes, feel free to do so. You can also check out the tour of the GN in 1970, as well as the past episodes of the GN in 1970.
70s.
It's dying like your wife's flowers in the fall, or when you accidentally water them with acid.